Welcome to We Time Convo. I'm Debbie.
And I'm Liza.
Today we're talking about something that hits home for many of us, the sandwich generation.
That's right. Adults who are juggling raising their kids while also supporting their parents who are 65 or older. It's a balancing act, and sometimes it can feel like you're getting squeezed in the middle.
To help us unpack this, we're joined by our amazing guest host, Russ and Dawn Marie.
We'll talk about the struggles, the rewards, and how to find time for yourself when you're caring for both the younger and older generations.
Okay, Liza, what is the sandwich generation? What is that all about?
I don't know where Irene finds these articles, but I was sad to find out that it wasn't about a generation that knows a lot about sandwiches and pastrami and turkey.
Is sad. Yeah, pastrami.
Rice. Yeah.
Pastrami.
I was just very bummed about that. But let me introduce first, before we start our discussion, our repeat guest host here, Russ, the cartographer.
Good morning.
If you guys,
I'm not even sure what that is.
If you guys don't know, if you don't follow him on Instagram, he loves to take pictures of random shopping carts.
Shopping carts.
And
is that cartographer?
Cartography is
it's a thing.
Is making of maps, I think.
Yes. And
you're making of.
Okay, Russ, wait. Before we go to Dawn Marie and introduce her, tell me the backstory on this, please.
Let's deep dive into Russ's brain.
The first one I saw that
do you remember the year?
I think it was right before COVID. It was I know exactly where it was at. It was at the Round Table in the Cambrian Plaza, which is gone now. Mm-hmm. I ordered a pizza, went to pick up the pizza. Right by the pickup window was a cart, and it was organized. Everything was filed like somebody was obsessive about the way their belongings were stored. It was so neat and incredible that it caught my attention. It called me.
Yes.
So I took a picture and I posted it. You see them all over, and some of them talk. Some of them talk to me like, what's going on here? And there's a theme. My favorite ones are filled with the big collections, overflowing with stuff. Okay. I love them in the water. I love them far up the train tracks. How mad do you have to be to drag a 75-pound metal cart up across them rocks?
75 pounds?
It's heavy. It's awkward. It's a big, awkward thing.
And you also have to think some of the photos that you have shared, you're driving, you have to stop and actually take it. It's not like he's setting these up. It's what he's observing out in the wild.
Yeah, they're out in the wild.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot out there.
And so I started posting cart pictures. Then I started getting cart pictures. Like the algorithm started showing me that there's a whole bunch of people.
There's a community.
There's a book about cart spotting with them classified. Somebody in Seattle wrote this book. I have it at home. It's incredible. They're categorized.
Out of here, dude.
It's incredible. So it's so funny. And what's even funnier was
that's the book you should take for the library.
I started to post these pictures, and then my girlfriend said, I know what you're doing. And I was like, what am I doing? She's like, because people are like, you're the cart guy, right? And people would people go talk to her about the weird stuff I do. They don't come to me. They go to her, which is awesome. Set that up. And she's like, I know what you're doing. I was like, really? Because I don't even know what I'm doing. I just post stuff. It's interesting. Because the other thing was also happening was I started seeing people with their hashtags. A hashtag Frenchie, hashtag French Bulldog, 50 hashtags.
Yeah.
And I think that's a bit weird. So I started putting up shopping carts of Instagram. Ha ha.
Shopping carts of Instagram.
There you go.
So you want to put your French Bulldog up? I want to put up shopping carts filled with trash in the creek.
We also think how versatile they are, how people use them, especially Santa Cruz, maybe San Francisco, how stores have to put the magnetic things on them and lock them down, and how some of them from where I work, they land up at my job and not at the Safeway or whatever. And
this could be a whole episode in itself.
Yeah, because all the kids are like, did you steal it? I'm like, no.
I would love to come back and talk shopping carts. I could bring some resources. I have the book.
Because they're expensive too.
They are expensive.
Yeah, they're like $150 a pop or something like that.
Yeah, supposedly if it's out and about, I mean, I think there's a person that actually looks for them, hunts them down.
There is. I have a picture of that guy. I have a picture of that guy posted one day. There's an ethical thing that's out there that you can find, and somebody wrote that this is the perfect ethics test, because if whether or not you put your shopping cart away, when you're done shopping. There's no penalty for doing it if you just leave it wherever it is.
Sure.
But it's objectively wrong to not do it.
Okay. And then
You guys, I always put mine away.
Me too.
I walk far to put mine away.
Well, I feel bad for them. Well, ethically also, what happens if someone goes grocery shopping or shopping anywhere?
Oh, by the way, this is a beautiful Dawn Marie here.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. My unofficial dating
Russ,
coach.
you're not as pretty, so we're
True. Those are facts.
But what happens when somebody leaves something in the grocery cart or whatever shopping cart, and you go to grab that cart? Because it happened to me like 2 times one weekend where somebody left like 30 pounds of meat in the Costco shopping cart. It was cold still. And I'm like, do I return this back in the store or do I just throw it in my car? Or somebody left like a case of soda or something in their shopping cart and totally walked away. I'm like looking around. Do I bring that back to the store or is it mine now? Is it free for grabs?
Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
See, there's another layer. And then look how many people, it's like the wheelbarrow for houseless people.
Yeah.
And how much they have to use and depend on that. That holds in stores all their belongings.
Yes.
How did that come about where they just started gravitating towards that instead of having 5 or 6 things, I guess, that they're carrying on them? But they get very territorial over their shopping carts too, because that holds all their belongings.
No, I get it. I get it.
Started a whole ass conversation.
You did.
Now
You did.
going back. Yeah,
To be
Dawn Marie,
continued.
the lovely Dawn Marie. So going back to the sandwich generation. Who is the sandwich generation? So it's adults who are raising children and supporting parents who are 65 and older, adults who are caring for adult children who have returned home, adults who are caring for neighbors or friends who are older, and adults who are making arrangements for their parents' care, such as paying bills or making appointments. So I think this, Dawn Marie can relate, right, a lot to this. And I believe Russ, because you have adult children, right?
I do, yeah.
I have adult children, but they have not returned home. But my mom lives with me.
Yeah.
I don't support her though. So I don't know if that doesn't make me a sandwich. I don't know.
Well,
You don't support her at all emotionally?
Okay, so are you telling me the sandwich generation has nothing to do with actual sandwiches?
That's what I just said. It was said.
Oh my God. I thought, okay, I'm a little slow to the party. Yeah.
This is not the pre-lunch conversation.
I'm hungry. We're going to talk about food.
To our listeners, just so you know, Debbie always comes in blindly. Like, she's just like, I'll come in and whatever we talk about, we'll talk about.
Debbie.
Yeah. So Debbie,
beautiful.
I'm sorry. So I think a little, like all of us can relate to this, right?
I think you're helping your mom out because she's not living independently on her own. So you two maybe a little bit financially are definitely helping each other. You're also helping your mom out, not be lonely. She doesn't have to do things on her own. Like you're the nucleus of a lot of your family events. From what I can see on Instagram, Liza, you guys party hard.
Yeah.
Every freaking day.
So Debbie, why don't you read off before we start the stats
on it
here?
So according to a new nationwide Pew Research Center survey, roughly half, 48% of adult age 40 to 59 have provided some financial support to at least one grown child in the past year, with 27% providing the primary support. So let that sink in. These shares are up significantly from 2005. By contrast, about 1 in 5 middle-aged adults, which is about 21%, have provided financial support to a parent aged 65 or older in the past year, basically unchanged from 2005. So the new survey was conducted November 28th through December 5th, 2012, among approximately 2,500 adults nationwide.
So, I mean, the stats are a little old. This, by the way, our sources are the Pew Research Center. I'm assuming it's probably higher now.
I would imagine with the way the economy is.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Dawn Marie, Russ, why don't you start with, your experiences?
When you sent this over, I started thinking about this, and I don't think of myself as sandwich generation, although I have 2 adult kids that live with me.
So if you were a sandwich, what kind of sandwich would you be?
Freaking tasty. Spicy.
Okay.
Spicy.
Okay, go ahead.
But I was thinking about this is my parents' experience.
Yeah.
This is what they dealt with. My dad my dad's mom and dad, like when I grew up in San Jose, my dad's mom and dad, they're both my parents were from Willow Glen. We lived in Burbank. My dad lost his dad when I was 3 months old. And my grandmother never moved from that house.
Yeah.
That was a big property and never remarried and did not drive. And my dad then became responsible for his mom, his growing small family. I was 3. And then later, my mom's mom came to live with us at one point as she began like the Alzheimer's descent. So I think like this is what I watched my parents do. And so I don't think of myself as sandwichy, although my parents are getting to an age where I'm checking in more, and they live together, but they're in their late 70s. Yeah. And so like we're not far away from having different conversations, I think, about what's needed and what support will have to be offered. But, you know, I guess I was raised that like we take care of our folks. Young or old, whatever they need, they're ours.
Right.
Yeah. I think I might be more categorized in the sandwich situation or sandwich generation. I have a 13-year-old daughter, and then my mom's decline with Parkinson's, and having to talk to her about, you can't live alone anymore. We need to move you. I need you to move closer to me. She very much had anxiety and depression. And so prior to 2 years ago, she would never leave her house. Like I had to go up to Marin and see her. I had to talk to her about I'm one of 3 and how to talk to my brothers about things, because they all wanted to help, but she was refusing it. And it took multiple falls and ER visits and multiple doctors going, you cannot live alone anymore. And then us coming together to figure out how to best help her out in the long run for everything. So moving what she had to San Jose, she had no intent of ever doing that. It was her really begging me to move back to Marin to take care of her. And it wasn't because we get along so well. It's just because I'm the female, and I kind of wanted to facilitate. I think everybody should get along. And then her not realizing like, hey, I've been through a divorce. I have a kid. I want to keep her in her situation for the best as possible. Now knowing even if I moved to Marin, I can't take care of her by myself. She needs a lot of assistance. She can't use the restroom by herself. She can't change by herself. She can't get a bed by herself. She can use her phone and talk, but some very major life skills have been in the decline. So I'm in the thick of negotiating that. I feel like I'm a little bit more grounded now that we've gone through a dip, and then, it's been about a year that she's been down here and stuff. I can tell you it is heart-wrenching to work with people her same age and see everything that they're doing. Because I can't just go like, hey, Mom, can you watch Gianna for a minute or do stuff? They can have a conversation, but it's not like I can ask her to do stuff with her. So I don't have that support of that. It catapulted it quicker. But same thing like Russ, and I assume a lot of people, you want to be there for your family members and show your kid that's what you do. It's fucking scary, the whole financial part of all of this, and care and how much it costs. It's what we thought daycare costs for our kids. It's astronomical for elderly care. And it's astronomical. And it's just a shame that I don't have a house where I could have someone else coming in and taking care of my mom. Like she really needs a lot of assistance just to get around, and mobility and people coming in and out and stuff. I'm thankful that there is adaptive devices, and I have a little bit of a background in that. So I'm like, looking up stuff like how to make her life easier. And those products I'm really thankful for, but no one tells you, hey, you need to figure out your own life and figure out your parents' life and your daughter's life. All at the same time.
Well, yeah. And, I, as a friend of Dawn Marie's, as well as a coworker, I've seen her go through this, and she's going through all this and then also teaching. So, I mean, to like juggle all of that, like, how do you do it?
I think it took saying and repeating, I don't have all the answers, and asking and taking a moment. I just need to escape for a couple of days, not talk to anybody. Last year was very crazy work-wise too, with some stuff. It was
wow, that's a nice way to put that.
Yeah.
Because as a teacher, when you leave work, your work still stays with you, like on the weekend, like you still have grading, you still have lesson planning. So I don't think people realize like that.
We're invested. Yeah. We're invested in relationships with people we're not related to.
Yeah.
Deeply. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you mature, and you're struggling. Yeah. You're struggling. And we also have our own families where other stuff might be going on, and we're related to those people and they might be struggling.
Yeah. So I think it took definitely finding a good therapist, being like talking and just like, I don't have the answers. Them encourage me, like, you're burnt out. Other coworkers being honest with them and saying, hey, you need to take time. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I've never really done that. How does that work? And then telling my students too, like, hey, you need to back off because they're needy. They're teenagers. They're figuring out their stuff. Like, you need to back off. I'm having a moment. Can we come back to this? This is what's going on. And then some of them opened up, like they have grandparents or parents with Parkinson's and talking about that. And I go, I do want to be honest with them, but I don't want to lean on them because they're kids and such, but being very honest with that. And then, your whole structure of getting your other siblings and other family members on board. It's, I'm the middle child, middle person. I talk to everybody. So I might have polarizing brothers that don't speak to each other, but I'm the one that has to, I'm talking to mom, I'm talking to them, I'm talking to them. I'm constantly negotiating with everybody. So it took some people helping me with some skills of like, you don't need to do that. Why did you feel like you needed to do that? And me going like, I don't need to be everybody's caretaker. So there's some days I don't do implant stuff, and that's just how I recharge right now. Or just figuring out stuff. Yeah. So. But I do have to say, this is going to be coming down the pike. And I do talk to a lot more people now about like, hey, get on your parents, their emails, all their accounts, get that going as quickly as possible because you don't know what mental state they're going to be in. Alzheimer's is a very tricky dementia where you think that things are going well and then there might be a huge dip. But get on all their accounts, have a medical power of attorney, have all that stuff, start having those difficult conversations, having a fail safe. We had a family member where he was helping out my grandmother, but also took a ton of money. He was my uncle. So we went through that experience. So we have a family friend and my brother being the power of attorney just in case to keep checks and balances of all the finances. But finding out their medical insurance information, their retirement, what you can do. Like, I don't have a house. Thank God my mom had a house. We're able to rent that out and use her retirement money. And she saved quite a bit. Otherwise, I don't know where we would be and what we're doing, like, and her level of care. Like, you want everybody to have the highest and the best level of care, but all this stuff adds up. The medications, PT, OT. Thank God there is Zoom medical appointments because I can't get her in and out of a car easily anymore. And so, like, I worked at a job now for so long, like, I call them the boys. I tell the boys, I'm like, hey, I got to go run. No questions. I got to go handle this doctor appointment. They're all cool. And I know other people have way more struggles and it's harder, but I'm very thankful for that, where I'm like, I got to go. And they're cool with it, and they'll cover my class for a little bit, and we all have each other. Oh yeah, that whole department is just so supportive of each other. I mean, you guys are like a little family. Yeah, you're like. But I know people who don't have that that's support, where you're working in a very corporate environment. So if you're not there and saying you're taking care of somebody, they might not care. Or we all have kids, and we're taking care of kids. So if one of them's like, hey, my son's sick. Yeah, bye. Go take care of your son. Like, I'm never going to say you need to stay here and handle it. Like. So we're all about family and that. So I'm thankful for that. But find out your parents now, like what they have, what they don't, assets, and then talk about, I need to do it too. But oh my God, I'm sure your parents living in the same house forever, they have a lot of crap. Oh my God. Yeah. That was another thing.
We're trying to talk about collections. I've maxed out the space I have at the house. And so I was like, you don't think like, oh, I play in a band. So I'm like, I'm going to get a guitar. I'm going to get a guitar different from the other guitar. Well, eventually the closet fills up. The space under the bed is gone. You get a storage. And you got 10 guitars in there too. And then you have to think like, is this right? No. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can only play one at a time. No, Russ, you got to think about what your kids are going to do with that if something happens to you. First of all, they're probably going to donate them, right? We start to collect stuff we don't like intend to hoard.
Yeah.
But you buy a guitar cable with every guitar. Well, pretty soon you got a box of them.
And Dawn Marie, your mom also had dogs.
Yeah, that's
she couldn't
another
take
thing.
care of.
So that was another thing that I know she loved the dogs, and it was like, okay, that's an extra cost to have at the facility if you wanted 2 dogs. Mom, you can't even take care of the dogs, so that would be another cost. Like they wanted $40 per walk.
Wow.
Something like, I'm like, I'll walk.
I'll do it for 25. I need the steps.
Yeah. And they were aging out and trying to find family members. Hey, can you take the dogs and stuff? So that was another caveat to everything. And now, having to tell my mom, like, hey, we have to put your dogs down because we found somebody to take care of them, but then their life expectancy. Granted, I thought that was a blessing in disguise because my mom's the type of person to hold on to something to the bitter end. And these people were really great. And they're like, no, this is the humane thing to do. I know everybody's different about it. So now I have boxes of dogs' ashes and stuff. So my mom also kept everybody's ashes. I don't like ashes. But I'm like, okay, what are we doing with all these ashes while you're I just so many funny conversations that I never thought I had to have. So when you're like collecting things like, here's a little box of this dog, my grandparents, everything, like what am I supposed to be doing with all this stuff? Do find out there's quite a few things. They're very costly. You can make them into rocks and other things, or make them
glass
into
jewelry.
Yes, jewelry and stuff, or diamonds. You can compress the ashes, but that's money too. But care of service, what to do with the animals. I have another relative. She's up there in age, but she's got a Doberman. I'm like looking at my cousins and I, because it's just her. I'm like, who's taking Sassy when she passes? It's like 120-pound Doberman. Like, who's taking care of this dog? So there's a lot of questions besides property and what to do and that. I don't know if anybody else has this experience too, but your critters, who do you want them to go to? Put that in your will, and your finances, and getting on every account that your parents are a part of, like finding out everything that you can, because if they're not there, you have like a lot. And then finding out from other friends, like, when their parents have passed, how many death certificates you need to close out every account, what that actually looks like. Because that's another, it's the opposite of planning a wedding, right?
Are there services that help you with this whole process?
Okay. Yeah, you can throw.
There was a broker that kind of helped us find a facility, though a social worker can kind of help a little bit, but it's still, you have to come down to that decision yourself of what to do. I think it would be a business to have, and that, because even putting her into assisted living, the caretaker's like, hey, we think she's going to need this and this. Like the people who are taking her money are like,
no, she's going to need way more.
Yeah.
Assisted living is no joke. My niece has worked in that capacity, and she's like, oh God, she actually has a soft spot for elderly.
Yeah.
And so she's in her 20s, and she's just like, and actually because she's experienced a lot of these things, she's like really big about taking care of herself. She goes, you got to start young. Take care of yourself, because she actually, because she works in that environment of elderly, and she's like, it's so sad, they're just not there, and so you have to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you get into that age, right? And then, but she has such a soft spot. When I was growing up, I actually was I'm afraid of older people. Like, it just kind of like, it was scary. But she doesn't have that fear. I mean, the cost, we were just talking about it. She was like, oh yeah, like just to be in assisted living, it's easily like a house payment.
Or beyond.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean, like
the more care you need, the more.
Yeah. So she's like, people spend a lot of money to live in these assisted living. Yeah. And I'm like, what's a lot? She's like, easily like upwards of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month.
That's
I'm like,
relative.
What?
That's if you're relatively healthy. It's like $13,000.
Are you kidding? A month?
Yeah.
That is insane. Like, how
you're paying for staffing.
Yeah.
You're not paying for housing. You're paying for staffing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And does insurance pay for that?
Not really. There is some insurance that you can put into, but it really wouldn't pay for assisted living because they're a private company and they just want the money. So when it's also like different care, like at her place, there's a PT and OT on site and there's a facility, but then Medicare is paying for
a portion of some.
Yeah. So like different, come to find out like, well, Kaiser wouldn't pay for the person there, but they might have someone that comes out or you have to go there. So there's transportation, there's everything, the food, everybody, like they have kids coming in and singing, or they have a singer, they have different events going on. They had their own, the other sister, assisted living places, they did old people Olympics when the Olympics was going on and they bussed them over to
That's incredible.
Yeah. They did wheelchair, like these two 90-year-olds were outside playing ping pong.
Nice.
And stuff. So, and there's a wide range of people and skill sets. So it's just not people in wheelchairs. They have these more adaptive walkers. There's a couple people in there. They're just like, well, we just needed some assistance. And there's a lot more couples too in this place than I've ever seen. I worked at an assisted living place. So if you're an older gentleman, you make out like a bandit because y'all bow chicka bow wow.
There's medicine.
Yeah, there's medicine.
There's no need for the flag not to go all the way up the pole.
Yes. STIs are on the rise for assisted living.
Bringing the clap back.
How is that? And I'm over here like
because they're not a condom generation.
Yeah, they're not a condom generation. They're not worried about pregnancy.
Correct.
And then they're not that it's happening at my mom's place, I don't think. But sure. I definitely got hit on by the couple of the gentlemen we were moving on. They're like, "You're gorgeous." My brothers are just laughing because it's like, "Thanks, guys. Could you block this person from me?" But yeah, STIs are on the rise in that community because they're not worried about pregnancy and not the condom generation. And then there's a lot more couples that have decided to move in. So it's even more cost because you have a bigger space. And things like that. But safety, security, people are checking in on you constantly. I have to say the people, they're called green shirts, but that check in are helping my mom out. Not always the most well-trained, but God bless them, about wanting to help like with toiletry and all that kind of stuff. Or maybe not sometimes best attitude from everybody, but yeah, it's an interesting, it's like living if you haven't lived in the dorms, it's like living in the dorms where everybody goes back to their own space. You can watch TV in your room, but you come out and it's communal everywhere. So if you're the only hot ticket,
well, obviously these people are having way more sex than people in college.
Sometimes, maybe in Florida. But yeah, Viagra is not the gift that everybody should be taking all the time. But it's interesting. But the cost factor is the hard, scary part.
I think, most people don't understand the cost that comes with that.
Yeah. And everywhere is different. But yeah, so and it's an upcharge for everything. So I need somebody to help administer my mom's meds. So they have a nursing staff there, which is great. Not sometimes the most well-trained about some things, but that's an extra cost to have someone else dole out her medications. They help me call her doctor's office if something's not right or something. But yeah, that's
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. They had a package for incontinence. So like depends on that. I'm like, that's $800 a month. You don't need to do that. I'm like, I'm just going to be buying stuff off of Amazon
and then sending it over.
Yeah. And learning those little tips and tricks. There's just a really great adaptable toothbrush that gets the top and bottom teeth that for people with Parkinson's and other things, because that's an extra care thing, like having shots, doctor's appointments and stuff like that. So there's an upcharge to everything, but it's nice to know she's safe and sound, taken care of, or somebody will call me if something's happening. And that part, but I have a young teenage girl too. Like my brothers are like, oh, she can go over there every day. I'm like, she does not want to go over there every single day and watch her grandmother and just sit there and stuff. So yeah, it's an interesting curveball, but I think there's a lot more of us who are going to be put in this situation.
Yeah. Debbie, what's your experience with the sandwich generation? Because your parents are here with you.
Well, I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky in the sense that my parents are mobile. They're relatively healthy. I mean, they don't need any assistance. My dad still drives. My mom still drives.
So do you and your sister talk about, though, like when they're older, like what would happen after that? Like
so
if they're...
I tell my parents, and this is the message that my sister, myself, and my brother have, is that take care of yourselves. Like, if you don't, because I think my parents have a tendency to always worry about their kids, right?
Yeah.
And their grandkids. And like, I've seen elderly in that generation, they will save so much for the next generation in the detriment of themselves, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I'm like, no. Like, we are lucky that we are self-sufficient, and we're lucky that, you know, we're self-sufficient to take care of our own kids. Our message to our parents is, don't worry about yourself. Stay healthy, because the biggest weight for us is to take care of you.
Yeah.
Right. And if you can lift that weight off us, that's all we need. Because just like Dawn Marie, your whole point, right, is that you have a kid, you have you, and then you have, that's a lot.
It's a lot, just an emotional toll.
Yeah, but a lot, like, not even like financial, but emotional. And because you don't want to see your parents like that. So our point to our parents is, please take care of yourself. Like, stay healthy, do those things. That's how you help us.
Yeah.
Right?
Or even talking to everybody about, my mom got her diagnosis right the week after she retired. And so it was also when one of our other colleagues got her diagnosis of cancer. And I was like, you got to do whatever you can now. Live. If you want to go on a trip, go on the trip. If you want to do this, do that. And just explore and have those adventures and do things. The people that came and took care of my mom's dogs, they were in their 90s and they just got married and they went to Africa on their honeymoon. And my brothers and I are like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But having more of those stories, like, all my great aunts have lived into their 90s.
Yeah.
So seeing whatever financial things they needed and stuff is like, yeah, live a life. I also think it's good to have a broad spectrum of friend groups and different groups. So that's where we're working with teenagers, self-absorbed. They kind of get my mind off of things because they're so needy. Right?
True that.
Yeah.
But if I was just working with us all the time, you guys are all like, hey, how's it going? How's it going?
Yeah.
They're not really asking me how it's going. They're self-absorbed.
Yeah.
They don't care at all.
Yeah.
Yes.
They come in like, hey, Miss Andre, it's my conversation this week. 2 kids, like, 2 girls. How do I insert a tampon? Okay, well, but I have that scope, and then like, hey,
Yes.
your mom can't do X, Y. So I have that wide arc of conversations going on.
But you gotta like be thinking all the time, like, am I running low on my capacity to serve the people I'm supposed to serve professionally and avocationally at home? Like, when the cup is empty, somebody's getting their ass chewed. And that's not necessarily intentional, but it's like you run out of bandwidth.
Yeah, especially
quick
last.
caring
Yeah,
for folks. Like, it's
That's
a
very
regular
true.
temperature check that you got to make sure, like, am I okay right now?
yeah,
And I think that's, being aware of the pressure, the weight
yeah,
of that, I think is important. Like, I don't think about it, but like, even with my own daughter, you know, she's just one of one, right? And she doesn't have any siblings. And so she's my go-to, and I've guilted her to like, hey, when I get older, you're like, so I've guilted her, but at the end of the day, I don't want to burden her either, you know, like that weight. So I also have to start thinking about like, how do I set myself up so she does, to minimize that. Right?
yeah, yeah. And I think that's an ongoing conversation and tips and tricks, like parenting, just like how to put the kid to sleep. There's a lot. You just need to have those open, honest conversations about, is this working? Is this not? What's going to happen and everything.
But
like,
do you include Gianna in like knowing some of the stuff you're doing to support your mom so that she's got an idea of like, this is what caregiving looks like. This is what we do. Like, my parents, like, I think that was the thing I was thinking about as I read all this stuff. Like, a couple of moments stick out, you know, in my, like, this lady that lived across the street from us, she was 1,000 years old. It seemed like May, and she had been widowed like my grandmother for, I don't know, 1,000 years.
Yes.
1,000 years. I don't know.
999.
She lived alone in this house directly across the street from us. And we would have to parade my whole life, we would go over there to trick or treat. We would go over there on Christmas. We would go as a family. My 2 younger sisters and I, we would have to go over there and stand in front of this or go in, or even worse, go into her house, and she smoked.
Yeah.
Pall Malls, unfiltered, forever. And
she's 1,000 years old.
She was an elderly woman. And so she didn't have anybody. My mom was her connection. And so when she got sick, she got lung cancer because she smoked a pack a day of Pall Malls. And so then she went to the place that we would go from our school to go visit, Skyline on Forest Avenue. That she ended up at Skyline, and my mom would bring her cigarettes, and we would go to the lobby.
Your mom's an enabler.
And so I would say like, we would say like, Mom, why are you doing this? And my mom would like patiently explain to us, she's 90 years old.
Yeah,
she smoked her whole adult life. She's dying of lung cancer, and not giving her cigarettes is not going to cure her, dummy. Like just like that conversation. I was like, oh wow, that's pretty thoughtful.
Yeah.
She's like, well, she's not getting out of here. I don't know what you're thinking.
Yes.
Like she wants to live. She wants to die how she's lived. Give her that space. And I was like, oh, that's good. And then my grandmother was like moving. She'd lived with us for a while, and then Alzheimer's got worse and she needed more significant care, got moved to a facility. And my mom was like trying to explain like the challenges there managing her care. And I was like, you need to F and do that, teenage stuff. You need to F and do this, and you need to F and do that. And my mom was like, think about this. No matter how I treat the staff there, I have to leave her there. How you think it's going to go?
Yep.
If I go in there and burn the place down over what isn't happening, I have to come from a place of love as her advocate. And both of those like things I was thinking about, both of those things came up when I was thinking about what it's like to care for. Like I had good models. My people put on a pretty decent demonstration of like, we don't give up on our people, and like there's plenty of challenges, but we come from a place of love. We do our best, and and that's we can't do more than our best, but you need to get, like you said, you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to take care of others, you're going to have your stuff at least in a smaller pile.
Yeah. Yeah, I gotta work on my collection. I used to collect Barbie dolls.
My collection.
And you know what? I've decided, years ago that I need to stop. But then I also told myself, you know what? Do I need to collect anything? No, not really. Yeah. It's just collecting stuff. So,
and everybody's gonna have their thing. Live your life. Go have at it. But there was just my mom moving from a 1,900 square foot house to a studio little thing. And with Parkinson's, there's at times hallucinations, or those carry on. She was having major hallucinations when we were moving her down. And then now she's like, well, where'd this go? Where'd this go? I'm like, how do you even remember this item or whatever? And I go, yeah, it was your house. And I'm like, does it matter who it went to really? Or because we sold a lot of stuff and she's like, I guess not. I'm like, look, I'll make up lies if you want. We just donated it all to a women's shelter. Is that okay? Yeah, that's fine. I just needed that in my brain. Because you got to think.
To close it, right? Yeah.
Those Barbies, where are they really going to go once you expire? Back to Russ and Gianna, I've definitely had conversations where I'm like, hey, I was breaking down crying. Like, I'm so sorry I haven't made you like a home cooked meal. Oh my God. Are you okay? And she wants to be a therapist. So maybe that kind of helped out a little bit. But she's like, hey, why don't you sit on the sofa? I'll give you a blanket. Let's put on your favorite 90s show. You watch this, like Gilmore Girls on repeat. I'm like, I'm so sorry I don't have the energy to take you out and do something. She's like, it's really fine. I'm not complaining about anything. I go, I know, but it's my thought process of wanting to give. Also being like honest, like I don't want to do certain things, or I'm burnt, or she hears me maybe gripe about my brother sometimes. She's like, and I'm like, I don't want you to hate your uncles, but it does take a lot of hard conversations. And so I've given her the option to opt out. Like, hey, if there's a time you don't want to be here, let me know. It's all right. You can opt out. If you don't want to know something, let me know. You can opt out. I don't think my parents gave me enough of those options growing up of opting out of seeing something or being a part of. So I definitely try to make that, or check-ins of like, how do you feel? So I asked her, she's like, I think if she starts, or any of my relatives, their mental faculties, that will be very hard to, like, if the conversation with Alzheimer's or dementia is so not pragmatical, she's like, I don't think I want to see that. She's more worried that my mom or anybody else wouldn't remember her. So we've had that conversation of when that will come up possibly. So at least she's at that stage in life where I can kind of communicate and talk about what that might look like and go from there. Cause she's definitely go through the waves of emotions. And, you know, sometimes you're walking away, leaving the place and you're just like, yeah, this is okay. We lost a student to suicide. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to check in on mom. She needed help going to the bathroom. She wet her pants. She peed on my shoe. Okay, I gotta go home and make dinner. Like, there's just those, like...
That's a full day right there.
Yeah. I'm like, and then somebody's like, oh, what are you doing for a break? I'm like, yeah, it's just like a lot. Like, I didn't even get to that thought process of what to plan for and stuff. I know there's events, but I'm like, it's not a lot of fun stuff that you're doing. Right. So one thing that saved me is now my phone's on silent because it's so jarring to get so many phone calls like your mom fell or she's going to the ER. Yeah. So that's on silent. And then being honest with my brothers, I'm like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing all the time. Don't think that. And not that they were putting pressure or anything, but I had to say that to let go of my release. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Just because I'm the female of the group does not mean I know how to be the ultimate caretaker.
Freaking knew it. Freaking knew it. I suspected it all along.
But I think if I could give advice, and I try to now, it's like, yeah, get on your parents' email lists, find out their financials, whatever you can. My mom donated to like every freaking charity. Immediately when she went to the hospital, I started forwarding her mail to my house so I could check off stuff. The hardest subscription to get off of was NPR. Oh my gosh, because they don't have that unsubscribe button.
No, they don't.
Yes. So that's a law now.
NPR for life.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So how many subscriptions? It was her thing to give little bits of money, not huge. Like, you have subscribed to everybody. All I don't get my own mail. It's all hers.
Yeah.
Of donation. And I'm like, we're donating to the Church of Joanne now. Like,
nice.
Nothing is going to anywhere.
The Church of Michael's.
But it's just been eye-opening to be that. Now, she's in her early 70s. So that is what gets me is like, yeah, this sucks. Like, you worked so hard. You took care of us. You went through so much. I want you to have the best quality life possible. And it's your mindset too. Like, I've had to negotiate how she thinks everybody else perceives her, how her relationships with my brothers. When she thinks she has Alzheimer's or dementia, she'll ask, like, do you think I have it? I'm like, you might be at a 1. Everybody else over here in this facility is like at a 10. Yeah. So let's just take you at the 1 and the 10. I go, if you had dementia or Alzheimer's, even if I told you, would it matter? I don't know. So I've had those hard conversations about putting the dogs down and seeing that. And like, I can only comfort you so much about all this stuff. Yeah. Or doctor's visits too. Of like, there isn't a change that's going to happen. It's just, we're meet you here and see what we can do to help. Because lung cancer is not going to,
Stage 4 doesn't ever become stage 3.
Yeah.
I would say the thing I was thinking about is I'm going to make a plug for the self-care thing. Get you something that you do for you. Mm-hmm. You know, that's only for you that you would spend your money on to do. Like, I'm lucky enough to play in a band. Cost me money, but that money's worth it because nobody can replace me in my band. And it's a little vacation away from all the other stuff that I'm doing. So it doesn't have to be that, but
no, it's really good. Yeah. Find your niche of what you can do.
Get you a hobby that you love to do and invest in that. Cause that's for you.
Yes.
Take your mind off things. Yeah. But yeah, so my experience is a little different. My mom lives with me. She's in her 70s. Yeah. And she's relatively healthy and she helps so much with my kids because I'm a single mom, So, Violet actually is with my mom now. So my mom takes care of her while I'm recording, which is great. I love her to death. But I think my advice is also setting boundaries because I'm 43. I've been single for a few years. My mom still asks where I'm going. My mom still asks when I'm coming home. She'll text me when I'm out or when I'm on a date, like, who are you with? What are you doing? It like was emotionally draining. Like it was to the point where it's like, I'm just going to stay home because I just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And then finally I, was talking to my therapist. My therapist is like, you're 43. She's like, you don't have to tell your mom anything. You're an adult. You need to lay down your boundaries. So, and I did. I told my mom, I said, Mom, I'm an adult now. I don't have to tell you where I'm going, and you don't need to know. But I will tell you that I'm going out. I may or may not come home. I don't know. But just know that I'm safe, you know? So it was to the point where I had to actually block her when I went out because she would just blow up my phone.
Oh.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
So yeah,
That's a lot.
As you can see, as somebody in their 40s, it was a lot. But I think setting the boundaries and just telling her. Like,
Is that always been her MO, or is that a cultural thing, you think?
I think both.
Oh, she sounds like my mom.
Yeah, I think both for sure. And you know, she's not working.
Yeah.
She has nothing to do.
Okay.
So I have my daughter here, and
I live with my kids, and I tell them like I'm not gonna worry, but like I'm gonna communicate to you where I'm gonna be out of respect, so you don't wonder if I'm home, if I'm not home.
yeah,
I just want to set that process up. I just want to know that you're out and safe. Like I don't need the details. Make your own decisions. I trust you to make good choices. What I'm also telling you is like, I'm also your dad though.
Yeah.
yeah.
So like, I'm not gonna, I'll eat through another person to get to you if I have to in some location. And so I just want us to know, I want you to know that you can communicate with me that you're okay. And if you're not, and we'll make decisions based on that. But like, let's just keep each other in the loop. So we don't let me play fantasy stuff. And,
Yeah.
you know, and that's also just adult stuff. Roommates are communicative.
Yes.
And I always tell my mom, if you don't hear from me in 24 hours, you can call the cops because that's when.
You're right.
Yeah, the 24 hours is when they'll
24
start.
hours
That's
is
the
legit.
be a missing
the start,
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
So how did she take that?
I mean,
The boundaries.
obviously she was mad. She was livid. Like, you know, I mean, she's like, I'm your mom. I need to know. And I'm like,
43 is pretty young though,
yeah.
to be honest.
What have you been doing, Liza?
And I get it. She's worried. I'm a female, you know, out there. Like I could be on a date. I could be with my friends. She has no idea where I'm at. But I mean, to be 43 years old and to have
checking
to
in.
explain that to my mom,
Yes.
you know, it's just like, come on.
It's a freak off, Mom. I'll be home tomorrow.
I'm just going to be at a white party at Peter's house.
I'm just dancing.
You know, but I do get it because I'm a mom too. I probably would be the same way.
Yeah.
But I do tell her I am going out.
Yes.
You know.
So that
Oh
should
yeah,
be,
it's not like you're sneaking out in the middle of the night or anything like that.
But I think like setting boundaries was like one,
really important.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really, really important. And she finally got it. She was finally like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
I
And
get it.
you got a lot of family always popping around and
Yeah.
hanging out. So I'm sure it's just, like you said, she has nothing else going on. And so
Yeah.
she's just going to persevere about like, you're a lot of her entertainment probably too.
And I'm the oldest, so I have a younger brother and sister. My sister has more of a flexible job. So if my mom needs to go to an appointment or needs her meds filled or call the doctor and all that stuff, my sister gladly steps in to do that because she knows I work full time.
Yeah.
And I have kids. So I think it's super helpful. I'm so thankful for my siblings.
There's
As
where
well.
it takes
For
a
that
village
support.
Yeah.
to all pitch in.
It takes a village.
Yeah. And that setting boundaries with parents too is kind of an interesting phenomenon where my grandparents all lived in the house that my parents grew up in. They were there for decades. They all knew all the neighbors. Like when we went over, we knew all the neighbors because we were, you know, Jimmy's granddaughter or whatever. So now moving into different neighborhoods and trying to build that up, people watched out for other people constantly. Your mom's probably, does she know the neighbors? Is she hanging out with any of the...
She watches outside the window all day.
But she's watching. She's not engaged.
When I come home, she's like,
got a
oh,
log.
the cops were over there. She's like, oh, in the corner house over there. She's like, I noticed the boyfriend hasn't been coming home. I wonder if she kicked him out. So, I mean, she's
Nice.
like,
Gossip. Yeah.
That's cool.
she's the neighborhood narc.
A narrative is nice. Narc.
So that's the other thing, like planning, like, hey, maybe you need to do this, like giving them options because their network about all this stuff. I'm sure she's not talking to her girlfriends. Like, do you check in onto your 43-year-old daughter? Because no, they're in another house somewhere maybe and everything. So
Because she has two other kids that are out there that she doesn't hear from for days. You know, so
Well, you just,
but I'm physically there.
There.
She
you're the
sees-
nucleus
yeah,
of all
she
that
sees-
connection. Yeah.
Yep. Wow. So now I understand sandwich generation.
Yeah.
And it's not actually a sandwich.
No.
I think we should have a whole podcast of throwing out phrases and see if Debbie knows them.
You'll really, I don't know a lot.
Yeah.
But no, this is a great topic. I never realized there was a term for it, but yep, we're in that sandwich generation.
Yeah. Because
And I think in a lot of cultures too, specifically in the Asian culture, is like if you're a son, like it's given, you have to take care of your mom.
Yeah.
Or your parents. And it's not common for them to be living with you in your 40s, right?
Yeah.
And then I would have to say there might also have to have a conversation, just because I have a couple family members. If you're marrying maybe into a certain culture, to know if that's not what your family upbringing is, you might be living with your in-law. You guys need to have that discussion about caretaking.
True.
From if you're going to get married, what that actually, I assume now, what it means to live with, Grandpa Joe and whatever, because it might not be your parent that you grew up with. It's your in-laws. That's a different dynamic.
Of course. Yeah.
And I've heard more men on that side complain about their in-laws living with them or showing up so much. I'm like, yeah, you just thought it was going to be like Hallmark movie and sexy sex all the time. And now your in-laws are there.
Two lies at once. Look at that.
Yeah. We might have to look at maybe another discussion about that too, about how do you navigate your in-laws watching you parent and watching you work and take care of stuff. Because I've definitely heard that from, it happens to be more men, about that was very hard for them to transition into that, besides everything else. Another topic. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Russ and Dawn Marie, again
Thank you
coming
for
having you on, and hopefully we'll see you on other future episodes.
Yay.
Yay.